From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
As a new storm threat emerges for the Gulf Coast, farmers race to plan.
So with a very wet August, that really narrows your window of opportunity to get the crop planted.
They also battle to bring in the harvest. We'll have the latest from Louisiana. The Fed makes another big announcement about rates.
The Fed sent the signal they're raising rates 0.75, and they're planning on raising another 0.75 here in a few months.
As the president heads to the UN with a message for Russia.
It's Russia's war that is worsening food insecurity, and only Russia can end it.
Now, the U.S. is helping fight food insecurity around the globe right now on AgDay. Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. The White House announces almost $3 billion in additional funding that it says will help strengthen global food security as President Biden delivers strong condemnation before the UN General Assembly of Russia's 7-month invasion of Ukraine.
We're also taking down the food crisis head on, with as many as 193 million people around the world experience acute food insecurity. A jump of 40 million in a year. Today I'm announcing another $2.9 billion in U.S. support for life-saving humanitarian and food security assistance for this year alone. Russia, in the meantime, is pumping out lies, trying to pin the blame for the crisis, the food crisis, on the sanctions imposed by many in the world for the aggression against Ukraine. So let me be perfectly clear about something. Our sanctions explicitly allow Russia the ability to export food and fertilizer.
Now here's how the additional funding breaks down. There is $2 billion set aside for global humanitarian assistance through USAID. The rest, $783 million, will fund global development assistance, such as efforts to help small farmers boost their productivity in places such as sub-Saharan Africa. Money through USDA for 8 new school feeding projects that could help feed nearly 1 million children in Africa and East Asia. And another $178 million would go to support climate-smart agriculture, while $150 million would go to the Global Agriculture and Food Security Program.
Through USAID's Feed the Future initiative, the United States is scaling up innovative ways to get drought and heat-resistant seeds into the hands of farmers who need them, while distributing fertilizer and improving fertilizer efficiency so that farmers can grow more while using less. And we're calling on all countries to refrain from banning food exports or hoarding grain while so many people are suffering.
Since Russia's February invasion of Ukraine, the U.S. has provided more than $6 billion in humanitarian assistance and $2.3 billion in development aid to fight hunger and bolster food security.
Today, the FOMC raised its policy interest rate by 0.75 percentage point, and we anticipate that ongoing increases will be appropriate.
The Federal Reserve announcing a 0.75 point increase in their benchmark interest rate on Wednesday. AgDay's Michelle Rook joins us with reaction. Michelle.
Clinton, the supersized hike takes the central bank's benchmark lending rate to a new target range of 3 to 3.25%. Now that's the highest Fed funds rate has been since the global financial crisis in 2008. It was largely anticipated by the market, but the key is what's next. Now going into the FOMC announcement, CME Fed Fund futures gave 82% odds for a 75 basis point increase. Odds were also 60% for another 75 basis point rise in November and a 50-point rise in December. Now, if that unfolds, the target range would be 4.25% to 4.5%, compared with the current 2.25% to 2.5% level now.
Michelle, it looks like the Fed's signaling that they need to keep raising rates. Inflation's a problem not only in the United States, but all over the world. So the Fed sent the signal they're raising rates 0.75, and they're planning on raising another 0.75 here in a few months.
Officials also released updated economic forecasts for the first time since June, showing a much more painful path ahead than previously anticipated to curb 40-year highs in inflation. But not all the details of that path are known yet. Economic analysts are also expecting the Fed to raise interest rates to a high level and keep them there for an extended period to cool off the economy. A CNBC Fed survey forecasts interest rates to peak at 4.25% in March. Nearly 60% of respondents are concerned about the Fed going too far and causing recession, though. We'll see how the market reacted to today's announcement coming up.
All right, thanks, Michelle. Ahead of the Fed announcement, the U.S. dollar index traded at fresh 20-year highs. Concerns about rising interest rates and the economy have continued to make the U.S. dollar a safe haven for investors. Now, market analysts say they may not change course until they see evidence that the Fed is going to reverse course and cut rates, and that may take months.
If that's the case, I wouldn't be surprised to see the dollar maybe have a little bit of a blow off top coming around the corner. Again, the path of least resistance is higher, so I wouldn't go to the bank looking for that today. But eventually, the dollar will peel off, and when that does happen, I think you'll see a pretty big boost in some of these commodity markets.
When the dollar strengthens against other world currencies, it makes U.S. exports more expensive, which is a headwind for commodity prices. Now, despite those higher export prices, members of a Taiwanese trade mission signed letters of intent this week to buy more Iowa corn and soybeans. Now, Taiwan committed to buy between 96 and 107 million bushels of soybeans and 59 million bushels of corn. Those purchases would be made next year and the year following and would be valued at around $2.6 billion. Now, Taiwan is Iowa's 12th largest trading partner.
AgDay weather, brought to you by AGI Nico. AGI Nico dryers have an average of 1 to 2 pounds heavier test weight per bushel than screen dryers. They can also save you 30% on average in fuel savings. That's money in your pocket. Visit aggrowth.com/Nico for more information.
We're keeping an eye on the tropics right now on a storm that could possibly impact the Gulf Coast. Meteorologist Matt Yurosavik joins us with the very latest. Matt?
That's right, Clinton. Something to keep an eye on as we head a little bit deeper into the month of September and eventually into October is kind of past now. That peak of tropical season, that hurricane season there, comes to an end as we head towards the end of the year. But take a look at this map where we are right now. September 22nd, it is going to be still on that down trend towards where hurricane season comes to an end by the middle of November, but still very active out there, and it is going to be extremely active over the next couple of weeks, and really a couple of waves coming off of Africa now, but it's this wave here in the east we're keeping an eye on as it moves into the Caribbean Sea over the next few days, and it has a very high chance of development. Some models bring it closer to the continental United States and into the Gulf of Mexico. So here's a look at Future Track. Watch the Fiona exit screen up by that, really the numbers, but it's the circle there. We're coming through the Caribbean Sea and eventually moving a little bit farther to the north. We're going to keep an eye on that area there as it could enter the Gulf of Mexico as we head into early next week. So something that we'll continue to watch as it could impact parts of the Gulf Coast. And here's something amazing, a beautiful sunrise, including a rainbow. Shay Cohen capturing this in central Illinois. Quite the sight. I'll have more on your forecast coming up.
An update now on a story we've been following for months. The Food and Drug Administration now admitting it mishandled the baby formula crisis earlier this year. The agency releasing an internal review report acknowledging a number of shortcomings in dealing with the formula shortage. The review found delays, a lack of procedures, and limits on FDA's authority. The report said going forward, the agency needs more staff, training, and equipment to handle these kinds of emergencies. Now, the FDA's investigation of bacterial contamination in baby formula in January ultimately resulted in a recall of many popular formula brands and forced the shutdown of a major manufacturing plant. Markets keeping a close eye on the Federal Reserve and what's happening in Ukraine. We'll check on Wednesday's trade coming up next. And later, southern sugarcane farmers are in the middle of a busy month as they hustle to finish field work before any tropical storms arrive. That's today in the country. Winter wheat futures on Wednesday, hitting the highest levels in 2.5 months on concerns about the intensifying Russia-Ukraine war and whether that will disrupt grain shipments from the Black Sea region. Michelle Rook is back with more on the market moves.
Well, mostly lower in the day in the market, so with the exception of the wheat market, as we had the Fed rate announcement, and Tommy Grisafi with Advanced Trading is joining us. And let's talk a little bit about market reaction, first of all, to the Fed announcement. Was the 0.75% kind of priced in already, did you think?
Yeah, the surprise would have been 1% raise, but they stuck with the 0.75, 3/4%. And at first the markets didn't have a big reaction, but now they're going to digest that number. They'll trade today and tomorrow, and we'll see how things settle out. Overall, a lot of volatility that the markets are thin, but in the big picture, the markets digested the rate increase very well.
So the commodities sector has continued to kind of not trade its fundamentals every day, but really trade a lot of these outside markets, money flow, what's happening with recessionary concerns. Now that we're past this Fed announcement, will we get back to normal or not?
Whatever normal is. Normal's when I went to bed last night, I knew President Putin would be speaking. Boy, did he speak. He even brought up the nuclear option. So as long as there's a war in Ukraine, it's really going to put a lot of pressure in a good way for growers to continue to grow grain. The move we saw last night was impressive. Grains opened up lower as we had that strong close. But overnight, around 1:32 in the morning, grain markets absolutely exploded. And then you take it to what we did today, where we opened up higher, then went much lower. Incredible volatility. I think that's here to stay for quite a while. Of course, we have weather concerns. Farmers have cash. They'll be able to store grain. Bins are empty. So a lot of variables. Never in my career have I seen so many factors that we're having to digest and process and give that information in order to flow back to customers, Michelle.
So quickly, what's the best way to handle these volatile markets?
Well, as a trader, I like to go to bed flat if I actually want to get a good night's sleep. But as a farmer, you always have a position. You're naturally long grain, long cattle. We like setting hedges. We like floors with puts. Of course, with the farmer, now I have clients on both sides, Michelle, and that is a great question. If it was a client who had a record crop they were producing, we'd be much more aggressive making cash sales. If it's a client who's just terribly disappointed with yield, we'd be more inclined to store what grain they produced, set a floor with a put, and look for that basis appreciation. As the markets move forward, grain's going to stay tight until America and South America can truly produce a couple back-to-back record crops.
Well, thanks for joining us, Tommy Grisafi with Advanced Trading. More AgDay coming up.
Interested in spending a day with a trader? Call Tommy Grisafi at 800-664-4383.
AgDay is brought to you by Germinator Closing Wheels. Germinator, it's not just any closing wheel. Reach your yield potential. Get 10% off while supplies last.
Meteorologist Matt Yurosavik joining us here, taking a look at the jet stream here for Thursday, and it looks like maybe a change in temperature patterns, especially for the folks up north.
Oh yeah, behind that cold front that moved through earlier in the week, we've got cooler, drier air, so less humidity up in the north, but still going to be warm and humid across the south, and that could continue heading into next week. And if we take a look at that jet stream, you can see a little dip in the jet stream across parts of the Great Lakes in the northeast, and then another one coming into the Pacific Northwest. Meanwhile, it's going to stay warm in the south. Again, still not getting a break from all of that high heat. It won't be as hot as it has been over the last about a week or so, but still going to be extremely warm. If we put this into motion, what you'll notice is some cooler air kind of flowing off the east coast and then up into down east Maine. We keep that pattern going, though, with that kind of northwest flow from west to east. It's going to bring in some cooler temperatures really across the northern plains, upper Midwest, and the Great Lakes. Some of that could even filter into the mid-Atlantic states as well. Meanwhile, we've got another big ridge building back in the west. That's going to allow the cooler air to filter into the east. A little break from that heat and humidity, especially in places in the mid-south there. Memphis down to parts of Mississippi and Arkansas, even Louisiana could see a little bit lower temperature than what we've seen over the past about 2 weeks, but still going to be extremely warm. And that ridge not really going anywhere, but it may keep things a little bit more unsettled in parts of the east, especially as we head towards the second half of next week. Here's a look at the temperatures, though, for today. Extremely warm and humid still across most of the deep south. That cold front still sliding on through, and you can see that happening there. Low temperatures on early Friday morning could get into the 40s, maybe even upper 30s across parts of the north, interior portions of the Northeast, but also the Great Lakes as well. And then keeping it warm and muggy down in the south. 80s and 90s still looking possible by the start of the day on Friday. But for Thursday, that cold front continues to push south. High pressure moves on out. A few more clouds moving in. It'll get windy as that cold front crosses the area, but not a whole lot of moisture associated with it. But then another system will follow that. That pushes high pressure toward the east coast. It's also going to bring some windy conditions, especially to the middle part of the country, which is something that we'll continue to keep an eye on. Most of the rain, though, falling along that system, moving up out of the west and along that cold front heading out into the east, something that we're going to continue to keep our eyes on through the weekend and into next week. That's a look around the country. Now let's take a look at the weather where you live. Scranton, Pennsylvania, windy with showers and thunderstorms, a high of 67 degrees. 89 degrees in Lubbock, Texas. It's going to be sunny, warm, and breezy out there. Winds gusting to 30 miles an hour. Scattered showers and storms in Miles City, Montana, a high of 71.
Got equipment to sell privately but tired of scams and hassles? Visit MachineRepeat.com and click Sell Mine. MachineRepeat.com, the simple and secure way to buy and sell equipment online. AgDay, brought to you by Rumensin. Rumensin's quality, consistency, and efficiency make it the right choice for your cattle operation. Rumensin, trusted by generations.
Could a new meat packing plant be coming to Cheyenne, Wyoming? Drovers reports the city's mayor suggested it. While the mayor's weekly column in Wyoming media was vague, observers believe Mayor Patrick Collins may be courting the Western Legacy Project. Now, as we've reported, that project was originally targeted for Rapid City, South Dakota. Industry sources reported by Meeting Place say the company is considering options other than Rapid City for its location, including Cheyenne. Western Legacy's development hopes to build in Rapid City's new Black Hills Industrial Center were recently shut down by the center's developer, who told the Rapid City Journal the development doesn't have available space to accommodate such a big plant. Original plans called for a $1.1 billion state-of-the-art plant that would cover 1 million square feet and employ 2,500 people. And here's a strange story. An executive with Beyond Meat suspended following an arrest for allegedly biting someone on the nose. A police report says Beyond Meat operating chief Doug Ramsey allegedly bit the man's nose and punched through a Subaru's back windshield during a road rage incident Saturday in an Arkansas parking garage near Razorback Stadium. Now he's suspended from his job at the vegan food producer. Ramsey, who joined Beyond Meat in December after 3 decades at Tyson Foods, was also accused of threatening to kill the man. Now, Ramsey has a court date next month. Tropical systems are still a threat to the Gulf Coast. We'll take a look at the Louisiana sugarcane crop as farmers rush to finish field work before a storm blows in. Louisiana sugarcane farmers are racing to get their crop planted while simultaneously preparing for this year's harvest, which is scheduled to begin in mid-September. LSU Ag Center correspondent Craig Gautreaux has this report from South Louisiana.
While Louisiana has been spared from any tropical systems, the month of August saw nearly 4 months of rainfall in some areas of the state. All that rain has sugarcane farmers scrambling to plant acreage that will be harvested next fall. They are also mindful that this year's harvest is right around the corner.
We've got a big sugarcane crop out there. So a lot of mills are going to be starting in mid-September. So with a very wet August, that really narrows your window of opportunity to get the crop planted.
Like the daily scattered showers, some farmers are more than halfway with their plantings, while others are just starting. The rain has hurt planting, but it did have an upside.
So the rain we had in very early August and throughout the month has been very beneficial for the crop that's going to be harvested, but it's put us behind on planting.
Some farmers plant soybeans on their fallow ground, harvest those beans, and plant sugarcane right after harvesting. Farmers that were able to get their beans out before the rains came will reap the benefits. Those that didn't will be left with beans having significant damage.
I've heard a few stories of people who got the beans out early that are cutting 60, 70 bushel beans. Unfortunately, after all this rain down in cane country, the bean crop is going to get docked at the elevator quite a bit.
Because of the improvement of cane varieties' stubbling abilities, farmers are no longer planting up to 1/3 of their total acreage, which helps shorten the planting time.
So right now people are planting somewhere in the neighborhood of 15 to 20% of their total rotation each year.
Gravois said more farmers are going to mechanical and billet planting, which helps speed up the planting process. With the LSU Ag Center, this is Craig Gautreaux reporting.
All right, thanks, Craig. And that's all the time we have this morning. Sure glad you tuned in. From all of us here at AgDay, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great day out in Farm Country.